Welcome everyone to Grab Your Keys. I am so excited to have pretty much the king of mortgage on our show, Carl White, who is the mortgage marketing animal himself. And I am just so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today, Carl.
Well, it would take the queen of mortgages to be able to identify. Not saying that I am, but it would take the queen. So, Sue, it's a pleasure to be here.
I know everyone. I mean, you can't go a day and talk about mortgage icons without talking about you being one of them. And with that comes, where did I always want to, so what I want to know during this podcast is, and I don't think I know this question, the answer to this question, but how did you get started in mortgage?
So it's funny. So I used to work in the hospital system, and I was driving home from work, and it just wasn't a good fit for me. And I was going down the road kind of mumbling and grumbling to myself. And I was getting paid well, but I don't know, it just wasn't a good fit for me. And so I'm going down the road, I'm kind of mumbling a little bit, and not in the best of place. And I passed by a building that had the name and the picture of somebody I just kind of very loosely knew from church. We went to the same church. And when I went by and saw his name and face on the building, when I get a visual image of him, he's whistling in the church parking lot, walking and just kind of sauntering and whistling, and looks like he's having a good day. And I thought, all right, what does he have that I don't, that he's having such a good day? And I didn't know him very well, but just enough to say hello in the parking lot. So I hit the brakes of my car. I turned around. I pulled in his parking lot. I walked inside, and he said, "Carl?" And his name is Ralph. You might know him, Ralph Watkins. So I asked him. He said, "Well, how are you doing?" And I said, "Ralph, not real good, if I have to be perfectly honest." I said, "I'm just not happy and fulfilled in what I'm doing, for 40, 50 hours a week." And I said, "And every time I think of you, I see you whistling in the parking lot. Like, you seem like you're really enjoying yourself." And he said, "Well, I something modest, like, appearances aren't always what they seem. I have my bad days too," kind of thing, And I asked him, I said, "So what do you do for a living?" And he said, he was a mortgage broker. So I'm a mortgage broker. Huh. So what's that? I never even heard of it. And he said, "Well, I loan people out money to buy houses." And I said, "Well, that's interesting." I said, "So what, I didn't know how it worked." I said, "What, you're real wealthy and you loan your own money out?" And he said, No. I find a bank that has money. I find a borrower that wants money, and I just simply put the two together, and then I get paid for it." Sounded like the easiest job ever.
Right.
Because you're not talking somebody into borrowing money just from him, right? And I said, "Well, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you get paid?" And he said, 25, 30. Well, I thought he meant a year. And so I said, "Oh, I don't mean any disrespect, but yeah, I don't know if I could live off of that." He said, "Well, you might be misunderstanding me. That's how much I make per month." Now you have to remember, Sue. So as we're doing this today is 2025. This was in 1999, where $25,000 to $30,000 a month. Not that it's not bad money now, but back then it was like serious money.
Right.
Real. And for me, it was unfathomable money. I said, "You make $25,000, $30,000 a month?" And he goes, "Give or take." I said, "I want to hire you for 3 days." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I want to hire you for 3 days, and I want to go sit in that chair right there in the corner, and I just want to watch what you do." I said, "Dude, you don't have to hire me. You'd be welcome to. When do you want to do it?" I said, "Tomorrow." "Oh, okay." So I called the hospital, told them I wouldn't be in. I sat there for about 2 hours, and I seen enough, and I said, "I could totally do this." And he was kind enough to introduce me to a gentleman, and
the rest is history.
The rest is history. So it was a great match. I think I was up to 10 loans a month by my 6th month, and because the gentleman that I worked for, he was a great processor and knew all the guidelines like the back
Right.
of his hand. Of course, I didn't know anything, but I had a lot of energy, and I enjoyed meeting and talking with people. And so I spent all day. Now I would call myself a business development rep. That's really
Right.
what I was. And then over the next year or two, I just learned the guidelines in the loan programs, and we ended up going our separate ways very cordially. We ended up going our separate ways, and I opened up a branch, and it just grew from there. So it was just like the guy that Dave told me I was made for the mortgage industry, and I think the mortgage industry was made for me.
Right.
And so it was just so I think the take home message of that is find the perfect match in all areas of your life, like your personal areas too, because the perfect match is out there, and
Right.
you just
And
have to
then,
be willing to take a risk.
yes, taking a risk is super important. So then that was in 1999. Fast forward now, 2025, you have your own, you are a non-producing branch manager.
Yeah.
You
They,
run,
they, they, and by the way, the company tells me I'm the second best one in the company.
I think they would be first.
Second only to Sue. Second only to Sue. So Owen to remind me that just literally, this true story. I'm not just saying this. Just about 4 days ago, I was talking with one of the guys, that's partners in the company that you and I work at, and he literally said, "Sue is the best branch manager I have ever seen."
Well, that's
And he said,
kind, but I think there's a difference. I think because I'm producing and you're non-producing, which I
well,
think
he said
is
he
a
made
great
no difference.
dynamic.
He
I
made
think,
no difference between the two. He just simply said, "You're the best." He said, "Carl, no hard feelings, but Sue's got an edge on you on that one." So,
and he says the same thing to me about you.
well,
But
anyway.
so you educate people with the mortgage marketing animals. How did the mortgage marketing animals be born from you doing what you love to educating people and helping? You've educated tens of thousands of mortgage people on how to have freedom in mortgage, because sometimes you get wrapped up in mortgages, so much mortgage that it bites you, that it almost kills you, that so many people have heart attacks from the stress of this job. How do you show people how to have that freedom? How was that birthed, and when was that birthed, if you don't mind me asking?
So it started about, I was probably 2 years in the business. So this is probably around 2001 ish that I ended up working for a company who did not survive, just FYI, the 2008 mortgage crash. It was a company called Family First Mortgage, and there's a Family First Mortgage now, different company, different owners, no relation. All right. So I went to work for these two marvelous brothers in Family First Mortgage, and there was 336 branches. And after 1 year, I was I'm going to say we, because it was myself and Diane, who I think my Diane. So we were the number one branch out of 336. And the owner called me up one day, and he said, his name is Greg Hill. Greg called me up and he said, "Hey, Carl, we're having a conference here for company wide, and we'd like you to do a presentation." I said, "Well, what would I present on? I'm new." He said, "Well, I don't know how you're, number one in the company." I said, kind of a hesitant, okay. So I went to that and just showed what I was doing and enjoyed the teaching aspect of it. It was and it wasn't just the the attention, and you get that, Sue, as a leader. So it wasn't just the attention from I'm using air quotes here, being on stage. Like, I just enjoyed teaching. And so after we finished that, a lot of the other loan officers and branch managers of the company started calling me up, saying, "Hey, we're thinking about this, and what about this, and what about that?" And so I called Greg and I said, "Greg, this is getting a little out of hand." He said, "Well, what if you did a once a week, like, hour thing where they can ask you questions?" Okay, because I enjoy the teaching thing, so sure, I'll do that. So we did that for a little while, but an interesting thing happened is around the second or third month, they'd say, all right, Carl, what else you got for us? I go, well, wait a minute. What'd you do with last week's information?
Right.
Where's the results from that? And frankly, the results were almost like they weren't actually doing it. So I called up Greg and I said, Greg, I think I'm going to stop doing this. He said, well, why are you doing that? Everybody loves it. I said, but they're not actually doing anything. He said, well, you know why? I said, no, I don't know why. He said, they don't have any skin in the game. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, charge them something. What? And like you and I would split it? No. You can keep it all. I'll benefit. Greg said, Greg would benefit by, the increase in volume.
Right.
And the company, of course, gets paid on volume. I said, well, what do I charge him? He says, I don't know, something. And so we started it at $17 a month, and about 90% tapped out, which was a great lesson. Now, the 10% that didn't tap out did very well. And if I remember right, it was something like that 10%, like the old 80-20 rule, that 10% made more than the other 90 as far as loan volume for the company. And so that's just kind of how it started. And then I asked Greg if it's okay if I taught other loan officers. And again, this is back in 2002, maybe. He said, sure. He said, if you don't mind mentioning us and our great company every now and then, for looking for, recruiting opportunities for the company. And I said, I don't care. I think you're a great company. And so that's how it all started. Sue, it was not, I'd love to tell you, I was sitting and I was inspired and I put together this master plan and it all worked out. But honestly,
I love that I asked that, because I feel that people who are not worried about walking through that door and seize the opportunity serve the most people. And
I think one of the secrets is be open to opportunities, because boy, I think they're all around us, probably way more than even you or I might recognize. And just learning to be, take our blinders off. They say, what's that old saying? Don't think out of the box. Come to find out, there is no box. Right. And I think being open to opportunities and keeping our eyes open, yet while at the same time not getting distracted by every shiny whistle. So it's kind of a little bit of a seesaw there that I find myself having to be careful of. But yeah, just being open to opportunities and the things around us, and being aware of opportunities, and the difference between a real opportunity and a waste of time is a very lucrative talent to hone. Yeah.
So to my juicy question, what do you feel your 3 keys or the 3 keys to success might be?
Oh boy. So, well, I think so. I'm going to give you 4, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great.
I think the first one that I have to just mention, just my own personal belief system, is understanding grace and what that means. Yeah, so I'll leave that one there. I think the other 3, I think, would be consistency, right? You got to be consistency, whether it's daily prospecting, nurturing relationships, sticking to a routine, showing up every day, just a real game changer. So good old consistency and discipline. Number 2 would be delegation. I've learned I can't try to do it all myself. And I think having the right team to focus on the things that generate us the most amount of business, like having somebody take all the other stuff off my plate so I can spend all my time prospecting and building relationships and marketing. So delegation is just an utmost key. A good friend of yours and mine, Sue, Steve, taught me something. I don't know if he came up with this self or it's a saying, but it's the first time I ever heard it. He said, you can have growth or you can have control, but you can't have both. And boy, there's a lot of wisdom in that one. Yeah. And I'd say the third one is probably just like having authentic relationships. And both with my our team members that we have, and some of them we share, Sue. So our team members, clients, referral partners, and treating people like they're partners and not a transaction has really fueled long-term success. So just being genuine and authentic relationships. And I tell you, another big piece of it is what I call the 25% rule. And it's that 25% of the people aren't going to like you no matter what you do. Even somebody as nice and wonderful as you, Sue, and certainly myself, hell, maybe it's more than 25%.
I think I'm more than 25%.
We could throw gold coins at them, and 25% would complain that we're throwing something at them, right? And then 25%, they like you as long as you're juggling enough rubber chickens. But if you drop one of them, now they don't like you. And then 25% don't like you. But again, if you're juggling enough rubber chickens, they'll like you for that period of time. But then as soon as you stop, they go back into the not like you camp.
Right.
And then 25% love you no matter what you do. And I have found the secret in life is find my 25%. And the other, nothing wrong with the other 75%. They're just not a match for me. But 25% of Earth is a big enough crowd for me to work with.
Yeah, that's fab. I've never heard about that 25% rule.
Yeah. And I think the mistake that I certainly made early on was trying to convert the other 75% instead of focusing in on the 25%. And that's been when I say love you no matter what you do, like Sue, you follow my 20. You fall into my 25%. I love you no matter what you do.
Right. And you follow my 25.
And I know you would never do anything disrespectful, or like if something didn't go right or anything, I know it wouldn't be intentional or anything. So it's like, it's totally cool. So it's not that things don't go wrong sometimes. It just wouldn't affect our relationship, how we feel about each other.
It's the trust, the underlining trust to know that it wasn't done maliciously.
Yeah, but because of because that would never happen. And I think just learning that 25% rule and focusing on the 25 and put all your energies toward that 25, and that's going to fall like on your prospects, every aspect. And so so it's, I just don't want to get the wrong impression. It's not that we can totally screw up again and again and again and again. They're going to still want to do business with it. That's not true.
Right.
But we can stub our toe from time to time. No big deal.
Well, that falls back into the grace that people will give you grace.
Yes.
So grace is one of my values. And it's so funny. I was on a podcast on Friday and they asked me, they turned the tables on me, and grace was one of mine. My grandmother taught me to have grace, even in the worst of situations. And so, you really have to fall back on that, and you have to give people grace. If you want grace, you have to give people grace.
That's for sure.
So I love that you started with that. You really started with one bookend and ended with the same bookend.
Yeah. And just to give you my definition of grace is being forgiven or being forgiving, right? The recipient or the giver is forgiving somebody, even if they, and I'm using air quotes here, even if they don't deserve it, and even if they don't ask for it, it's given anyway. And certainly that's been the case with me as far as like on the receiving end. Grace is a wonderful thing. So anyway.
Right. So I have one question with regards to the delegation. How do you make sure that you have the right people on the bus in the right seats?
So that's a great question. So I'm going to tell you, starting off, you don't know, and back. So I got a handful of years on you, and
funny you say that. You think, but I got into I'm funny that you got in the business in '99. I got in the business in '92.
Well, what I mean years on you, I mean in life. I don't mean in the business. I meant in life. I'm older than you, is what I was saying.
Right. Okay. And I'll give you that one.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I meant. And so back in I guess it was early 80s, or maybe even late. Yeah, I think early 80s. Ronald Reagan had this saying that I just absolutely loved. It was trust but verify. Trust but verify.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I trust my team, but then we still verify that what they say they're doing, they're actually doing. And I have learned, gosh, we can go deep into this one. I've learned there's a thing, I call it the 1% rule. So 1% of the period of the people, actually 1% of anything you deal with, whether it's companies, people, cars, movies, vacations, anything, 1% is superior. 4% is excellent. 20% is good, even very good. 60% is fair. So 60% of our employees are fair. And frankly, 20% are just bad or poor, or whatever word you want to use. And I have found the secret to that is, so it's 1%, 4% is excellent, superior, 20% is good, even very good, 6% fair, 20% is bad. I have found the secret to life is draw a line separating the 1 and 4% from everything else. So draw a line under the 4. And I want to live my life in that 1 and 4% range. So all my friends, all my employees, all my team members, all my vacations, all the movies that I go to and stay in the whole time, they have to be superior or excellent. That the absolute enemy, the worst employee we can ever have, is a good one. Because if somebody's bad, we go, boy, this person just is terrible. We gotta let them go like now. A fair one, we'll go, well, this person's not great, but we'll put up for a little while, and then after about a week, a month, or a year, or sometimes 2, or sometimes 3, we finally go enough, and we let that person go. See, the good is just good enough that we hold on to them. And there's the most expensive, the most costly employee you'll ever have in your company is not a bad one. It's not a fair one. It's a good one, because you'll never let them go.
Right.
And so as far as our team members, they have got to be either absolutely superior or at the very least excellent. And by the way, we're not judging them as human beings. We're judging their performance. So if their performance is not at the very least excellent, you got to let them go.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
painful.
hard sometimes. What's one challenge that you have faced that's shaped who you are today?
So you may or may not know this. I'm a bit of an introvert. And so I'm what's called come to find out, I'm an extroverted introvert. And what that means is my natural sense is to kind of, like at a party, I'm the guy that's in the corner, like literally, because and I love people. And if it's 1-on-1 or 2-on-1 or even 3 or maybe 4-on-1, I thrive. Sitting around, like Sue, you bring a handful of friends and we go sit around a campfire, man, I'm in heaven, like literally.
Right.
You put me in front of, a certain amount of, anything more than 4 people, and I get uncomfortable. And so learning how to push that envelope and kind of put that to the side, not for all my life, not even for my entire day, but for chunks of my day, and doing something that doesn't feel natural, and gets easier over time, was definitely something that I had to overcome. So I think it, like, just learning to push myself, and I hate to use cliches, but out of the comfort zone, I think was the biggest thing. So
Being uncomfortable, being comfortable, being uncomfortable. I say that's one of the things that I try to do, something that makes me feel uncomfortable every day. I'd rather do it in the beginning of my day so I get it over with. But being comfortable, being uncomfortable is one of the
I would definitely
all the time.
Like even coming on this podcast today, I'm nervous. Right? I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm nervous. Now, I like you. I'm not nervous in front of you because you're my buddy, right? Mm-hmm. You and I, we're buddies, right? We're dear friends. But yet I know this isn't just me and you talking. Now there's an audience, right? And so it's I get nervous, but just learning to just do it, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Well, we're super happy that you feel the fear and do it anyway, because you impart so much great knowledge every single day. I mean, we've gotten so many fantastic nuggets out of this so far, and I'm so grateful for you for doing this with me. Where do you think the mortgage business is going to evolve over the next few years? What do you think, with everything going on with AI and all that other good stuff that's good, but can be concerning to mortgage professionals.
It can be, frankly, for any business, this can be concerning because, like, there was a time 8 years ago, if you ask a taxi driver how they feel about their job security, my guess is they were pretty solid. And then one day came Uber and rideshare and Lyft and these other, and it devastated what was once a very secure industry, just totally game set it. So we never know, no matter what business we're in, when something like that's going to happen. And so I think I think one of the secrets is to just really give everything the period of time that you're at work, whether it's 8 hours a day or 6 hours a day or 4 hours a day or 10 hours a day, like whatever that time is, put on your war paint, give it everything you got, treat it with incredible urgency, because technology is definitely changing everything. And the guy that sold buggy whips in 1900 had no clue that Henry Ford was going to just upset the apple cart.
Right.
And so if you're going to make buggy whips or anything, make as many as you can, do as well as you can. And it's not a doomsdayer thing. It's just a reality. So yeah, technology is coming, and you better embrace it, because well, like the Wright brothers, they started building bicycles, and then they thought of airplanes, and they grabbed technology and grew with it. And we certainly wouldn't know who they were today if they were just a bicycle maker, right? And so they embraced technology, moved with it, use it to their benefit. And so yeah, you better embrace technology, because it's either you're either on its train or on its tracks, but it's coming.
So definitely like lean into all of that. I remember when I got into the mortgage business, my dad said, back in the day when there was the yellow pages and the white pages and the yellow pages, and he was like, people who are listening don't even know that to find a phone number, you would have a book and you would go through this book. Like, how archaic when we really think about where we've come from. And he said, you have to learn how to use this thing, the internet. And
very wise, a lot of wisdom.
And we've like gone full circle, like to social media, the internet, just so many things. I mean, we didn't even touch on social media today, but if you could mentor your younger self, what do you think the advice that you would share with what information would you give your younger self? I mean, you've come full circle from being in that medical field.
Take more risk earlier. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The perfect moment is now.
I love
that. And be okay with mistakes. Like be willing to look stupid. Like be willing to look stupid. Yeah. And I've learned that people don't think about us near as much as we think they do. They're too worried about what you think of them. And so and that still holds me back today, perfectly honest. So I wish I would have told my younger self to work on it much earlier, much more vigor. Yeah, the perfect moment is right now, today.
Yeah. So you talk to people about like a lot of having freedom, and everyone loves to say work-life balance. And I feel like there's never a good work-life balance. Lots of people don't know that you have an amazing wife that you've been married to for decades upon decades. Like how long? Like 30? How long have you been married? Forever?
I've been married for 37 years now.
37 years. And you have two beautiful children. How did you balance raising two amazing children, having a fantastic relationship with your wife? Like, I mean, I look at it and I'm like, how, and having a fabulous career, educating tens of thousands of people. Like, how did you balance that? Or did you just not balance it?
No, I think, I've screwed a lot of things up. That's one thing that I think I've really, I've done well with. And trust me, we could sit here for more than one episode talking about all the mistakes. So I'd say it's been two things. Number one, I'm going to go back to grace, receiving it, mostly, and giving it sometimes, but mostly receiving it. So good old grace, and leverage, learning that I don't have to be all aspects of everything. that I can hire somebody to do most of it for me. Just like obviously I'm not putting myself on the same level, but Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, when they made Apple Computer, they learned very quickly they couldn't be the ones soldering together the circuit boards, or there'd be no Apple today. So they had to delegate that part out.
Right.
And then so delegation, and then being very disciplined. I start my workday at 9 o'clock, and I finish it at 5. And I'm not starting before 9, and I'm not finishing after 5. So at 5 o'clock, whatever's not done, then I'll get to it first thing in the morning, and that's just
The way it is.
just the way it is. And what's amazing is when I started doing that, I learned the art of delegation, right? Because then I had to, or I found myself being really good at some things that didn't need to be done at all.
Right.
And so it's just taking a lot of stuff off my plate. So,
and it goes back to the 4 keys that you said: grace, consistency, delegation, being authentic in relationships. It just, on the 25% rule, like everything just is very cyclical, like just goes round and round in your life, whether it's professional or personal, they integrate.
Oh, let me tell you something. There is no separation of work and life. That'd be like getting a pitcher of water and dropping 1 drop of red dye in it and telling the dye, just stay on this side of the water. Don't go on the other side. No. So what's happening at work is going to come home, and what's happening at home is going to come to work. And so, you want to be the same person at both places. I can't be one person at one and another person at home. It's all one bucket. So just the discipline of it. And frankly, my wife has helped me a lot with it. And frankly, she's given me reason to want to be home at 5 o'clock. And so, which goes back to grace. So it all kind of circles around, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Carl, you have imparted so much information on us today, and I can't thank you enough for, being amazing in the mortgage world, but also being amazing as a friend of mine. I appreciate everything that you do, and our viewers will get so much out of today.
Well, Sue, it's an honor to be here. I'm starting to calm down a little bit. I think it's going okay. And
it's been amazing.
Yeah, you just don't understand the power that you exude in a good way, right? In a good way. So I think you're very humble in that aspect. So thanks again. I appreciate it. And it was an honor talking to you. It was an honor playing in your sandbox today. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Grab Your Keys.